Hey guys, and welcome back to today's college basketball pick video. In this video, we're going to be talking about 6 matchups in college basketball for March 16, 2017, opening Thursday of the college basketball tournament and the first round. If you're interested in what games I'm going to be touching on in this video, I'll throw those down in the video description. And if you're interested in getting our daily free pick over at our main website, you can check out stumpthespread.com at stumpthespread. You can get our daily free pick as well as our top confidence plays across all major American sports, and I'll put a link to Stump the Spread down in the video description as well if you want to go check us out over there. If you want more of this pick video content in the future, you can click that subscribe button and any thumbs up on the video are greatly appreciated and really help us out. So heading right into things here, first matchup I'm going to be touching on is a match between the ACC and the Big Ten as we have Virginia Tech versus the Wisconsin Badgers. Virginia Tech had themselves a respectable amount of success over in the ACC this season. This is a group that really relies a lot on the three-point shot. If they're not knocking down those three-pointers, they are liable to get beaten. Could be a tough matchup here for Virginia Tech going against Wisconsin, who's a very good defensive team, and they'll put this one more into a half-court setting where Virginia Tech hasn't been quite as good this year in comparison to some of their games when they've been able to get up and down the court a bit more and get in those higher scoring numbers. Wisconsin faded down the stretch run of the regular season, but we were really expecting this group to come on stronger come postseason play, given all of their veteran experience on their lineup, and just given the fact that Wisconsin plays their best ball when things are slowed down into the half court and they're able to really utilize their efficient offense as well as their strong defense, and that plays well in the postseason generally. Wisconsin looked really strong in the Big Ten tournament outside of their final game there against Michigan. In the semifinals, they did go on to blow out Northwestern and put Indiana out of their misery with a 10-point win in that matchup as well. Wisconsin is one of the more underseeded teams, in our opinion, in this tournament, and if they are able to win this one, they will pose quite a significant threat potentially to Villanova in the next round. Virginia Tech without Chris Clark, he's been out for a while with an injury, but coming into this one, we feel like these veteran Badgers are primed to do well in the big dance, and we do like them, giving the 5.5 points as the better bet against the spread, and what should be a pretty good matchup here for the Wisconsin Badgers. Below that, we have Princeton versus Notre Dame. This is actually a chance where Princeton could potentially pick up that upset in one of these 12 versus 5 seed matchups. The Ivy League has done pretty well in the NCAA tournament in recent years, and this is a Princeton squad that returned a lot of experience this season. They were dominant through the Ivy League, and they were able to hold on and get that automatic bid from their league. Right now, sitting at about a 6.5 point underdog, was at 7.5 to open things, so it has shifted down by a point. And the reason why we feel like Princeton has a decent shot here is given the fact that Notre Dame isn't the most physically imposing squad. Usually, these smaller conference or mid-major teams, when they go into the NCAA tournament, they'll go against teams that just have way more athleticism or height and muscle down low. But that's not necessarily going to be the case here, as Notre Dame is a finesse team. They rely a lot on the three-point shot and their efficient offense. Although Notre Dame deserves being favored here, it's a matchup where Princeton will have a puncher's chance, especially if Notre Dame goes cold from the outside, as they depend a lot on that three-point ball. And Notre Dame does not have the bulk or the physicality down low to really push Princeton around as much as some of the other teams in that 4, 5, 6 seed range might have been able to in a different matchup. So heading into this one, we feel like Princeton getting those 6.5 points as the 12 seed is going to be the better value bet against the spread in a game that the Tigers could certainly go on to pick up that upset win. All right, moving on down here, the next match I want to touch on is a match between the Big East and the Big Ten as Xavier goes on to play Maryland. Xavier, fortunate to get into the NCAA tournament, they really fell apart down the past month plus of the regular season, and that really coincided with Edmund Sumner being out. Edmund Sumner, their starting point guard, very important on the offensive end in terms of his ability to distribute the ball. Without Sumner on the court, Xavier hasn't been near the same threat, and really the only teams that Xavier's been able to win, other than some of their wins more recently to get in the NCAA tournament, their win against Butler, for instance. Outside of that, it's really just been wins against DePaul over the past month or so. So Xavier definitely not showing as well as you'd like to see them coming into the postseason. Going here against a Maryland squad, and I actually feel that Maryland's been a bit undervalued throughout the regular season in terms of what they've been able to do on the road, especially for a young team, has been very impressive, although Maryland, might not have the strongest computer numbers, but if you just take this team and what they've been able to do in a lot of tough road environments this year, definitely a team that's been playing a bit more savvy and experienced than their roster might indicate. Maryland has a lot of youngsters on their group, but led by a veteran like Melo Trimble, who's one of the top players in this particular matchup, and Trimble does a really great job of getting to the free throw line, which is always an important ingredient to have in the NCAA tournament. Maryland sitting right here as about a 2-point favorite. We haven't been all that high on Xavier, especially ever since Edmund Sumner went out, and this just feels like too generous of a spread here for the Musketeers. We're going to go ahead and side with the Maryland Terps, giving the 2 points as the better bet in that particular matchup. Down here we have a matchup between the American East and the Big Ten as Vermont tussles with Purdue. Vermont was the popular pick to win their league this year. They went on to do that. Wasn't all that easy for Vermont in their conference tournament title game against Albany, but they were able to eke things out there in the end on their home court to get into the big dance. Vermont has a very long winning streak right now coming into the tournament, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Vermont has gone against a very manageable schedule over the last couple of months. The thing that I'm concerned about with the Catamounts coming into this one is going to be their ability to match up with Purdue down in the paint. Purdue has one of the better front courts in the tournament with guys like Swanigan, Haas, and Edwards, who are all really muscular, powerful, and athletic guys that should be able to really take advantage against this Vermont squad, especially on the boards and with their ability to score in the paint. And Vermont isn't, necessarily a team that can put up a lot of points when going against a stout physical defensive team like Purdue. Some of the games that I saw Vermont playing back during the non-conference against tougher big conference opponents, they didn't always necessarily look like they belonged on the same court at times. So coming into this one right now, sitting at about a 10-point favorites here for Purdue. We're going to go ahead and side with the Boilermakers, giving the points as the better bet against the spread in that matchup. All right, just a couple more games I don't have to touch on in today's video, starting with Vanderbilt against Northwestern. We have the SEC versus the Big Ten. Vanderbilt, under new leadership this year with head coach Drew, who came over from Valparaiso. Vanderbilt finally starting to look a bit more comfortable in head coach Drew's system and really playing more up to their potential over the past month or so of the regular season in comparison to what we were seeing out of Vanderbilt back during the non-conference and during the earlier portion of SEC play. Vanderbilt, having a lot of losses this year, should feel fortunate to get into the big dance, and their 3-0 mark against the Florida Gators is probably the things that put Vanderbilt over that threshold to get into the big dance. Also, the fact that Vanderbilt went against one of the toughest schedules this year in college basketball certainly played in their favor as well. Going against, a team that does not have a lot of experience in the NCAA tournament, as this is the first time Northwestern has been able to crack in and make the big dance. It's a big moment for their program and fan base, who's been waiting a long time for this. And it'll be interesting to see how Northwestern performs here against a Vanderbilt squad that has certainly shown much better down the stretch of the regular season than they were at earlier portions. And Northwestern, on the flip side of that, hasn't necessarily shown all that well over the past month or so. There was some rumblings about whether they were sliding onto the bubble or not, but really their win at home against Michigan on that buzzer beater was probably the game that pushed Northwestern over the line and into the big dance. Coming to this one, I really like the ceiling that Vanderbilt has, much higher ceiling on the offensive side of the ball than Northwestern, while the Wildcats have a bit better defense. But I just really like what I've been seeing out of the Commodores, especially in their particular wins against a very solid Florida group lately. So we're going to go ahead and side with Vanderbilt here, giving the 2 points as the better value bet against the spread in that matchup. And below that, we have VCU versus St. Mary's, two mid-majors here. And I'm not a huge fan of really strong mid-major teams going head-to-head in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Much rather see high mid-major teams going against middling big conference teams, but it doesn't seem like the selection committee is on the same page with me on that particular scenario. We see a lot of these high mid-major teams matched up quite frequently in the first round of the NCAA tournament. It is a little bit frustrating, but St. Mary's this year having themselves a tremendous campaign, probably a little bit underseeded. I would have put this group more at a 5 to 6 seed. But perhaps the fact that they weren't able to get past Gonzaga in any of their matchups this year pegged them down more to that 7 area where they're standing. St. Mary's only has 4 defeats this year, and 3 of them came against Gonzaga. I do remember back during the non-conference, St. Mary's went on the road against another A10 team in Dayton, and they were able to pick up that true road win against Dayton. So that bodes well here for St. Mary's, that they were able to win on the road against the best team from the A10. VCU certainly having themselves another quality campaign, but this VCU team doesn't quite have the same kind of ceiling as some of the other VCU teams that have made the NCAA tournament over the past 5 years or so. With all that in mind, given the fact that St. Mary's is one of the more cohesive teams in the nation and one of the more better defensive teams, they brought back their entire starting lineup from last year's team, and that cohesion, we just really like this group coming into postseason play. So we're going to go ahead and side with St. Mary's, giving the 4.5 points as the better bet against the spread. And that's going to wrap up the games I want to touch on for today's video. You can get more of this pick content in the future by clicking that subscribe button, and I recommend you go over to our main website, stumpthespread.com, to get our daily free pick, as well as all of our top confidence plays across all major American sports. So we will see you guys in the next video, and you can go over and check out our daily NBA play of the video as well. So thanks for stopping on in, and see you then. Bye.